Welcome to Tuesday Tales. I have kind of a new approach to offering Tuesday Tales this year where I have guests with me every week. So I'm actually providing what I call the alchemy of your words for business growth through words, communication, and stories. And each week I will introduce a new guest. We're going to follow kind of a standard format to learn a little bit about them, their personality, their business. And then I'm going to ask them to share a story that I will develop into a story that they can use for their business, just to show how storytelling can work and the power of storytelling. And I want to introduce my first guest on my 2024 episodes of Tuesday Tales. Welcome, Stephanie McCullough. How are you?
Thank you, Helen. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for volunteering, especially to be my first when I'm figuring out all of the details of how to use all these technical platforms. So I'm going to start with a little bit of an interview and ask you some things that might be different than you normally get asked when you have an interview. So tell me a bit about who you are outside of your work.
So I am in my mid-50s. I am a fully menopausal woman. I am an empty nester. I have 2 kids in their 20s who are both out of the house. I have been married for 31 years. I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My parents, who are in their 80s, live about 1.5 miles away. And I'm trying to remind myself what I like to do in my free time, because for so long I didn't have any.
So have you discovered any kind of dormant activities that you've gotten back into?
You know, I'm enjoying my crafting. I used to do needlepoint with my grandmother a million years ago, and I've started doing embroidery on clothing specifically.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. I used to do crafting with my kids when they were small, and I thought I was a crafter. And then I realized I only did it for them. when I had the opportunity to do it on my own, I enjoy painting and sketching and things like that, but I really don't enjoy like crafty things. So that's excellent that you're getting a chance to go back into some of those joys in your life. So tell me 3 things that are really important to you.
Ooh, exploring, trying new things, whether that's food or restaurants or travel. You know, some people, I mean, we do have places we go back to annually as a family, but I always want to go somewhere new. So that's one thing. Excellent. I guess along with it is learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I was working with a coach last year and she's like, maybe stop listening to so many new webinars and like integrate the stuff you've already learned. I'm like, no, but that's no fun.
Yes, that's a real trial for people who are lifelong learners, right? We just want to keep absorbing all the time. And sometimes we forget to stop and actually implement it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, for sure. So lifelong learner, explorer, and what about one more?
Deep conversations, whether with clients or friends, but really, you know, my friends I look forward to talking to the most are the ones like we kind of skip the surface stuff and we're talking about the deep, important life stuff right away.
Excellent. So now I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do?
I do financial planning for women in midlife and better, and mostly women on their own, divorced, widowed, never married. They have no one to talk to about their money because, you know, it's not polite to talk about money. So they often kind of spin around trying to figure out what to do. So it's not just about, you know, making the most money in the stock market. It's what is this money for? Let's align it with your values. You know, making a safe space to have those deep, intimate conversations are going to get us to the right answers of where should this money be working for you.
Excellent. Do you find that women are a lot more savvy than they used to be financially, or do you still find that there's a large amount of women, once they maybe get into their 50s, they're on their own through widowhood or divorce, that they're not really that savvy with money because they used to rely on their partner? Or do you find that there's a shift in that?
I haven't seen so much of a shift. And I'm going to push back a little bit on that word savvy because it kind of implies like we should all know this stuff, you know, and a level of shame if you don't, which I think is very real. A lot of women feel that, but no one teaches us about money. You know, high school,
Absolutely.
College, grad school. I've talked to people from the top MBA programs in the country. They don't learn about personal finance. Our families don't teach us, and we're not allowed to talk about it. So how the heck are we supposed to learn? So like, I hate the term financial literacy because,
Yes.
we all learn how to read when we're little, but we don't learn about money.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just
that's very
it's
true. And I appreciate that
assumed,
you pushed back on that, because that is quite true. It
right?
is, it can be an area where you feel embarrassed or less than if you don't know because you think you should.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
that's a
you're quite
barrier
right.
to taking action.
Right. So what led you down this path of wanting to provide this safe space to teach people, women primarily, about finance?
So when I was a baby financial advisor, I supported the retirement plan at a local hospital. And I would go in and do, group meetings, and I would meet with people one-on-one. And the majority of employees at a hospital are women, outside of the C-suite. And back then, even, the doctors were mostly men. But I had so many conversations with women who either outsourced it to a man in their life, whether a spouse or a brother-in-law or a father, who were poorly treated by people in my profession, to be quite honest, and who just kind of put their head in the sand and was like, this stuff's intimidating. The industry doesn't really speak to me in a way that's meaningful. I'm going to put off dealing with it. So I kept thinking there's got to be a better way to have a meaningful conversation about money with women. And then the hospital fired me one day. So I'm like, oh, shoot, now I've got time and need income. So I'm going to do that thing I've been thinking about.
That's excellent. And how long have you been practicing that now on your own?
Since 2011. So what's that bring us? 13 years?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Good,
about
good
half
time.
about half my financial planning career.
Yeah,
Which
very
was a
good. So is there a tip or two that you could share with us today about maybe first couple of steps that women could actually take to start taking control and gaining some confidence?
Yes, absolutely. To me, step 0 in all the money stuff is checking in with yourself and getting clear on your personal values, your priorities, what you're trying to build in your life, not what you think you're supposed to, or not what your parents told you you're supposed to do, but your own, because money is just a tool. Once we decide we're going to align it with our own values, then the decisions become a bit easier.
Yes.
So people say, what should I do with my money? I'm like, oh, it depends. Let's talk about all this other stuff first. Then we line up the money to support that.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic tip. I can't really think of any financial advice that you would receive anywhere else, through a bank, an investment portfolio, anything that would actually put that as your first question. And that is important, right? What do you want to do when you retire? What do you want to do right now with your life? How do you manage money to make that fit for you, right? That's excellent.
Yeah, the money has to come after all those things.
Yes. Yeah. And I
then,
love the fact that you referred to it as a tool as well, because
yeah,
money has a lot of kind of emotional connotations for people, myself included. I'm working on that. But yeah, instead of giving it a life, just to give that power back to us and just realize that it's a tool. That's a great tip as well.
And the other thing is, a lot of women are scared to look at the numbers. And I think that's because they feel like their numbers are judging them somehow. They're just numbers, right? The judgment's up here.
Yes.
So we have to do a little digging and unearthing our own kind of emotional baggage. Like you said, it's emotional, but also we pick up messages early in life and from society about what's okay and what's not, what we should be doing. That's all buried in there. And that affects how we feel when we have to deal with our money. So
absolutely,
if we can bring some of those things to light and be like, oh, wait a minute, that's that old idea from my grandmother a long time ago. That's not really how I feel about it. You kind of have to put on like a scientist hat when you're looking at the numbers. It's just data. It's just data. So we can figure out where you are, and then you can make decisions on how to move forward.
Now I'm going to ask you, this is a tricky, almost a trick question, but I'm going to ask you previous life experience before you became a financial planner.
Yes.
Is there something that you can share with us that you think adds to the value that you offer as a financial planner?
So this is going to sound weird, but
it's okay.
My favorite job ever was in college. The summers in college, I was a sailing instructor. So I was this, kid under the legal drinking age wearing baggy shorts and pigtails teaching grown-up doctors and lawyers and professionals how to sail. And I was totally intimidated at first, but then I realized like, oh, in this area, I know more than them. And I got decent at figuring out how to explain things 2 or 3 different ways so that the different people in the class could grasp the concept. So I think that teaching experience was helpful in how I relate to clients and try not to use jargon and, try to explain in a way that people can take in.
Yeah, that's excellent. And kudos to you for actually even realizing that that is something that you've brought into the work that you do now. A lot of people don't realize whatever our experiences are, right? Being raised as an army brat or, traveling or, in your case, teaching sailing lessons is something that actually helps you in your work now. And that's one of the things that really adds to our unique value proposition. How you show up to do the work that you do is based on all of those past experiences that make you who you are, right? So that's amazing. So I'd love to try to bring all of those elements of your personality and your business together in a story that you could actually use in your business. So I'd love for you to think of something that's happened to you recently, whether it's in business or your personal life or something that you've maybe seen in the news that's just of interest to you, some story that we might develop into a story for your business. Is there anything you can think of?
Well, the one that's popping to mind is not recent, and it's related to the sailing instructor job.
Okay.
Part of the sailing lessons is we would get on a boat with 4 students, and we, the instructors, weren't allowed to touch anything. We just had to walk people through it, explain, now move this, now do that with that line. And every student got a chance to steer the boat. And every so often we'd get someone who was terrified. And I have to say often it was the wife who got dragged there by her husband. And we didn't let couples be on the same boat because there's only one instructor allowed on the boat. But my little trick was that I would say, oh, that's okay, you can go last. But I wouldn't tell them that that means that they had to bring the boat into the dock, which is kind of the scariest part because we didn't have motors, right? We were just sailing into the dock. But then when we would walk them through it, and they did it either successfully or not, but nobody died. We got in there, right? I felt like that was giving them a boost of confidence. Like, look, you can do this.
That's amazing. I love that story. And what I'm going to do is kind of move that into a story that you could use in your business. So whether it's, giving a talk somewhere, or if you're networking with somebody, or something that you even wanted to put on a social media post, it would really be a great analogy to share something along the lines of, as a sailing instructor, when I was younger, I understood that I could get people to move forward in their fear if I allowed them to think that they were going to be the last one, to learn from the experience of watching the other people before them while we were operating the boat, not to let them realize that they were actually going to be doing one of the more intricate or more difficult parts of the lesson. And that actually is a way that you help people with their finances so much the same, that it's one step at a time. And it's often taking people to a place that they think is scary, or taking people to a place that they didn't know they could get to, by offering them a gentle approach or a nurturing approach to their finances. Is that something that resonates with you that you could share?
It is. And I feel like my clients, who have no one to talk to about their money, it's the walking through it with them. I'm not telling them what to do, right? I'm helping them craft a strategy, but it's, they're taking the action and it's their priorities, but being there with them, walking through it with them, metaphorically holding their hands and being there.
Yeah. And that's, in doing what you do, it's very much the same as what you described, not being able to touch anything on the boat, but only being able to guide and instruct is very much what you do now. And so I hope that is helpful to you in some way, that you can maybe use those kinds of analogies when you're talking to people about learning something new, learning about finance. It's kind of like learning about sailing, learning how to ride a bicycle, whatever that might be. And that might even help you broaden the scope of your work by appealing to people in the sailing community, or appealing to people who are a little bit more adventurers in their life, telling a story about that, like around sailing, might be a way to connect with an audience that you haven't been able to connect to before. So I hope that's helpful and kind of gives you some things to think about, using analogies with your clients and how you can actually use that kind of past life experience, or previous life experience, I should say, to be able to relate, an instruction or a guidance to your clients.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I hadn't thought about kind of appealing to those outdoorsy type folks.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I love to inspire people to think about with storytelling, is that, we very often communicate in the way that we are wired. And, you actually gave me a little communication profile for you. And one of your key areas is nurture, which I can hear so much in how you approach your clients, how you want to, it's all about helping. It's all about building people up, confidence, all that kind of stuff, which is very nurturing. But if you think of appealing to a different type of personality set, somebody who is, for example, more of an adventure type, they may not appeal so much to those nurturing words that you would use naturally, but they would appeal or be attracted to a story about sailing or being out learning something new or doing something exciting, right? So it's all about kind of finding ways that we can broaden our audience by actually kind of speaking in a different language. And storytelling is often a way to really connect with people as well, especially at a networking event, or as I said, even on social media. Just to somebody sees something, they see a picture of a sailboat and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm interested in that. What's that about? And then all of a sudden they've got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about your business, right? So yeah, that's lots of fun. And so I really want to thank you for joining me. I want you to let people know where they can get in touch with you if they have some questions about how they can set up their finances with confidence and clarity with working with you.
Sure. Thank you. My business is Sofia Financial, Sofia, because Sophia, I am told, means wisdom in Greek. So my website is sofiafinancial.com. I also have a podcast called Take Back Retirement, which is on all the podcast platforms.
Fantastic. And of course, they can find you on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn under Sofia Financial or your name.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to share with the audience that storytelling really creates meaningful connection with your audience. It is a science-based data that shows that we do have these neural pathways that connect with people when we tell stories. It diffuses the amygdala response, which is when people are in fear of being sold something. And so it really helps to build trust through conversation and presentations. So join me for more Tuesday Tales. I'll be back again next week at 5 p.m. EST. And feel free to check out my storytelling links and my storytelling challenge on my link in my bio as well. So thanks again, Stephanie, for joining me today. And thanks everybody that's tuned in to watch.